The University of Michigan has moved on from athletic director Warde Manuel. We're going to talk about how we got here and what's next for Michigan after the Warde Manuel era has ended. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you're into that, consider subscribing to Adapt and Respond, a college football podcast. And you can follow us on Spotify and Apple and answer the question in the comments below. Do you think this is the end of, let's say, a checkered era for the University of Michigan? Do you think nothing changes? Do you think this is only a good thing? As we've learned today that Warde Manuel is not going to be the athletics director at Michigan for the first time in over a decade. It caps a 10-year run as athletic director that saw a lot of winning in the second half of his tenure as opposed to the first half, but also not without some rather huge scandals where you have to ask the question, is the juice worth the squeeze? And is this how you want to go about your business? So how we get here? The University of Michigan paid law firm Jenner and Block $12 million to rummage through its closet and to find out how rotten the Wolverines athletics department is or was, if you prefer to believe, all the bad has been found out and thrown into the proverbial trash bin, right? I'll allow for both those thoughts. But that's not why Jenner and Block got paid $12 million over the last 6 months to investigate the athletics department. It needed to know, the university needed to know what's going on in Warde Manuel's house. So let's start with one of the brilliant acts from Manuel, which was a move to not fire Jim Harbaugh following the 2020 season. 2020 season is really the last bad one since 2026, right? That's it. And as far as on the football field, they have had not great seasons, but they haven't been bad. They were 2-4 in 2020. The game was canceled for the first time in over 100 years, I believe 103, because Jim Harbaugh couldn't field a team because he didn't have enough players that tested negative for COVID. It was also part of a run where Harbaugh just could not beat Ohio State and couldn't win anything substantially. But like Manuel is a favored son of that university. So 2021, Manuel takes this opportunity when Harbaugh's down and the program's down to make him eat what I think is an insulting and incentive-laden contract at the time. It was $4 million in base salary at a time when he should probably be making $8 million in base salary, and $4.4 million in incentives. One of those incentives paid him $1 million to reach the college football playoff, a thing they had not done. For his part, Harbaugh accepted that challenge, accepted that contract, and went about trying to contend in the college at the highest level of college football, which means getting to the college football playoff, and they did. They made the college football playoff in 2021. They wanted to beat Ohio State. They won the Big Ten championship. They did it again in 2022, and they ran the table in 2023. Best 3-year run by a Michigan football program in the 21st century. Add to that, you've also seen the men's basketball team win a national championship just 3 months ago, all on Manuel's watch. He made the Harbaugh hire. He made the Sherrone Moore hire. He didn't make the Harbaugh hire. He didn't let Harbaugh go. He didn't fire him when he had a good opportunity to do so. Didn't make that hire. Didn't fire him. Okay. Made the Sherrone Moore hire. Made the Dusty May hire. Okay. These things matter. However, through those 3 years that I've just told you were the best in the 21st century and 3 of the best that Michigan has had, basically since the Schembechler era, you start looking around. Well, no, that's not true. The Lloyd Carr era was really good to Michigan too. So we'll just stick with the 21st century. But you look around at that 3-year period, and you have criminal charges for assistant football coaches, a 10-year show cause order for Harbaugh, a 3-game suspension for violating the Big Ten sportsmanship policy from B1G Commissioner Tony Petitti, financial penalties from the NCAA that will cost the university $30 million, according to Manuel, because Jim Harbaugh allowed for an offensive analyst and Connor Stallions to orchestrate a robust sign-stealing operation that gave the Wolverines an unfair advantage against its opponents, according to us, right? Most of the public, as well as what you can show. I mean, Connor Stallions even did a documentary with Netflix about this. Those facts are reason enough for Michigan and its alumni to go, all right, how are we different in comparison to the rest of the country? For which Warde Manuel told Sam Webb at the Michigan Insider on Tuesday, he doesn't think his department is that much different from anybody else. And anytime bad thing happens elsewhere, he uses it as a teachable moment. He has bad things happen at his athletics department. He does what he can. Okay. But after former assistant coach Matt Weiss was indicted by the feds, 24 charges, federal, 14 counts of unauthorized computer access, and 10 counts of aggravated identity theft, which stem from allegations that he secretly accessed over 3,300 student athletes' private accounts to steal intimate photos and videos from them between the year 2015, 2023. Wasn't on staff at Michigan for that whole time, but he was on staff 2021, 2022. And I see some Michigan fans trying to skirt that. I would tell you not to do that. But then you have former head coach Sherrone Moore, who informed Manuel he'd engaged in an inappropriate affair with former Michigan staffer Paige Shiver. And then, take another big breath, Moore trespassed into her apartment and was arrested the same day he told Manuel about his violation of university policy. The university itself called the law firm to dig into the culture because, well, now you got to know what's going on. And as its investigations findings were making its way to the Board of Regents, news was reported Sunday that Warde Manuel might not have a job come Thursday. Of course, Manuel went on air Tuesday talking about, hey, this is who I am. This happening to me doesn't feel fair, essentially, right? So then we have Wednesday, the reporting, or Tuesday, the reporting from the Wall Street Journal that says in Jennerbach's investigation, they found that Manuel knew something was amiss between Paige Shiver and Sherrone Moore as early as preseason training camp, August 29, 2024, and even wrote a letter to Moore to the effect of he didn't think that his executive assistant, Paige Shiver, should travel with him anymore, right? Then you have, again, referencing this Michigan Insider interview Tuesday of Manuel saying, I don't need the credit for Michigan's success, but I'm not going to stand idly by and let people say all this happened despite Warde Manuel. I mean, look, stop. Okay. This happened on Warde Manuel's watch. He is the only principal character left from this era where you have allegations of sign stealing, criminal charges to federal criminal charges to an assistant, a head coach who's engaged in an inappropriate relationship and then takes it too far by trespassing into her apartment. Those are the three big ones, right? You can make, I'm sure, more of what's going on. But the thing that I believe really has undone Manuel, who got to hire Kyle Whittingham and might not get to, and definitely won't get to see that hire made, or won't get to see what that hire does on his watch, and hired Mike Boynton Jr. to follow Dusty May, is that the passing of the buck just that doesn't happen at your level. There have been 32 different Power 4 athletic directors since 2025 alone. Just the last 2 years, like since 2024, we've seen 32 new people get to those 68 jobs. I'm including Notre Dame in the math here because it's a hard job. It's a crappy job. It happened to Warde Manuel because Warde Manuel is the athletics director at the storied University of Michigan, and the buck has to stop there. For those of y'all that don't know where that saying comes from, so it's famous because Harry S. Truman put that on his desk, saying the buck stops here. No passing of the buck. Okay. Means that anything that happens during and under my administration's watch is my problem. It is my fault. I affect this alongside another phrase of players win, coaches lose. It's always the way it's going to be. Whenever players, in his case, coaches do well, his coaches get all the credit, and they should. When they fail, he should be at fault. Is it fair? No, but that's how it works. And that's why you get the job. That's why you want to keep the job. That's why it's a hard job. But Manuel got to hire, or excuse me, say got to not fire Jim Harbaugh, even when he had good reason to. He oversaw the hire of Matt Weiss. He oversaw the hire of Connor Stallions. And he made the hire of Sherrone Moore. So when we talk about what these men have done that have sullied the reputation of Michigan men, Michigan women, the last thing I wanted to hear from Warde Manuel was passing the buck. 19th century saying that came from playing cards. You'd pass the buck, sometimes it's even just a buck knife or a handle, to the person next to you when you did not want to deal. Well, as the athletics director at the University of Michigan, you got a deal. So what happens next? Hopefully, things go well for the University of Michigan. I mean that. Like, you hire an athletic director that can put you on a path to sustain success without having to look over your shoulder about, okay, what crappy news is coming out today? Which one of our coaches can't keep his nose clean? Is the rest of the world going to accuse us of cheating? Can I just go to church and enjoy that my football team, my basketball team, my athletics program is good? I think that's what it is. No idea who they would hire as an athletics director. But I do know this. With Manuel gone, it's going to be mostly different for the principals, man. Like Mike Boynton Jr. holdover from Dusty May, but okay. Kyle Whittingham is an attempt to get anybody that's not associated with the Jim Harbaugh era at Michigan. We'll see, because Boynton's also on a 1-year deal, a prove-it deal, according to Warde Manuel, and we'll go from there. I also don't think this is going to quiet how people feel about 2023 or the way that it feels like Michigan got good in a hurry, but the product is still good. The players are still great. And I expect Michigan will be competing for championships in all of its sports because that's just the kind of program that it can be, which is the other reason why Warde Manuel doesn't need to be there. You're a steward. Even as a former player and an alumnus, you're a steward. We ain't all supposed to have these big old cool jobs for very long. Sometimes things happen out of your control, like they have for Warde Manuel, and you have to pay because that's your job.